Hey guys, welcome to our podcast where it has to be said. My name is Denise,
I'm Elinise.
and we are here, and we are hoping that it will be an interrupted recording because it is just Elenise, myself, and Elena, and she's
Non interrupted.
what I said.
Interrupted.
Oh yeah, non-interrupted recording. Because it's been real. And she's awake and active, and we're hoping for the best when we're done with this. But we're here. It's been an interesting week. We have a lot going on, but we finally do have a mom daughter trip for this weekend, which is exciting because we haven't had it since like Ellie was 5 years old. That was the last trip. But anyways, I wanted to talk today with Ellie a little bit. I'm happy she agreed to it, kind of forcefully, not that forced, but we want to talk about just our upbringing in the church. I'm technically considered a millennial. She's considered a Gen Z, and kind of like what it looks like, or what it looked like for us, our upbringing. Because I think sometimes we focus in general, whether parenting, whether maybe in like in the job that I do, how different we are from teenagers now. And at the end of the day, I think we all have some similarities. Um, and I just want to talk with Ellie about her experience because she did make the decision at 13 to get baptized. So I wanted her to share a little bit about her experience.
Um um I don't know. I think I had a normal experience. I think it was all like a little nerve wracking because it was my decision. Like no one was pushing me to do it, but then there was like nobody telling me not to do it, but then there was nobody telling me to do it. Like I didn't have an opinion on it. It was like really just my opinion, like if I wanted to do it or not. And it was a little hard because I was the only one I was the youngest out of all of them getting baptized. So I was like, I don't know if it's a good idea to get like baptized because I don't know if it has to do with age or your relationship with God or any of that. But I think when I learned about it more, I think I felt more comfortable and ready for it. I think like I was ready to like get on a whole nother level, even though I knew like there would be more spiritual warfare, like more of that. And I knew like that was gonna come with it, getting baptized, but I think I made a very good decision getting baptized.
Okay. And how do you feel like your experience as a growing teen in the church is? Like, do you feel like it's too strict? Like, it's too many expectations, or
I don't think so. Like I don't think they have really expectations for us in the church. I feel like they're definitely less strict than they were before. Like they don't like push you to do stuff sometimes, and like I don't think we're as strict anymore. Like we're not forced to wear dresses, even though I still wear it like every Sunday, but you're not really forced to wear that stuff anymore. So yeah, it's different.
yeah, I think it's a lot different than coming from my time. I would see the generation before me, I would say, had it worse as far as like, the discipline, and this is all wrong. Um, you can't do this. This is a sin, or you're gonna get disciplina. Like, you won't be able to participate if you have bangs, if you shave your armpits, like, things to that extent, right? But then my generation came in, and I remember I was telling Ellie that we started with the wearing pants underneath the skirt during the winter, kind of like giving the hint, like, it's too cold to be out here in a skirt, right? And I'm like one that I seldomly wear pantyhose. I'm not really a pantyhose person, so having to wear a skirt without anything underneath, like I was suffering. So I remember we like our generation started like for Bible classes coming with jeans underneath skirts, which was really tacky. But we started doing that. I know that during my group, like we started going to the movies because before that was also seen like everything was a sin, everything wasn't of God, which I get to an extent, and I think is more of just like the kind of being mindful of the things we see, the things we listen to, the things we say, and the places we are, how that can affect our life spiritually. So I can see in that perspective how important those things are. But to say like I can't sit and enjoy a movie at all, it was kind of like, come on. It was like I think it was too extreme and too religious. that it kind of pulls people away
Yeah.
from wanting to serve Christ, because it's like,
They only see the negative and they don't see the positive of it. Like when you push all of that, like you're telling them they're doing everything wrong and you're not telling them anything they're doing good or improving. It's just like no one wants to like
mhm,
people want to serve Christ, but they like some people don't realize like people they push like all the sins that they everything they're doing wrong, but they don't understand that everybody's gonna sin. You're gonna sin every single day. Like you can't control that. You can control on working it, but at the end of the day, like we're humans. We're gonna make mistakes.
yeah,
And if you blame someone every single day, like if you're like making them feel bad for that every single time and not bringing them up, they're not gonna like want they're not gonna be motivated to have a relationship because of that. Like you're just pushing them down. I feel like that they're not like that anymore. I feel like they don't like call you out for your sin. No, they don't do that
mhm.
anymore.
And I remember that, and and what you're talking about is more of like the message of the grace of God. But do you feel like sometimes, I think, in even your perspective, do you feel like people who are aware of God's grace and mercy, do you feel like sometimes people, is there such thing as abusing that grace in your perspective or your opinion?
Like what do you mean?
Like, do you feel like, all right, because after a while, right? So if you know something is wrong, or you feel like
And you
that
could
inclination that you shouldn't be doing it, but you continuously do it, and it's like, okay, God, forgive me for my sins, wash me with your blood, blah blah blah. You say that prayer today, Monday, and then Tuesday you do it again. Then Wednesday you do it again. Thursday again. Is there, in your opinion, should there be a limit, or is it?
it depends the intent. So like it's like different because like you can do a sin every single day, but it depends. Like it's the mindset. Are you trying to grow? Like it could just be such a bad habit that you can't control it, but you're trying to. Or is it that you know God is going to forgive you, so you abuse that? So
Yeah.
it's like He knows your mindset, but honestly, like I feel like if you know He's gonna forgive you, sometimes we have the conscience that oh He's gonna forgive me, so I can just keep on doing it.
Yeah.
But I feel like that is not right. Like it's okay to do a sin every day if you know you're trying
Go ahead.
if you know
Hmm.
you're trying to do it better. Like you're not
Okay.
purposely doing it. Let's say
So
you
it's not okay to sin, but it's okay if you make a mistake, if your intention is not to do it. Like, things happen.
yes. Like you can let's say you lie a lot. When like unconsciously you lie
Uh-huh.
when someone asks you something by accident,
Yeah.
but it's not like you tell God you're working on it, but like you don't like really try to do that. Like that's not
Hmm.
your purpose, and He knows that, so I feel like He would forgive you. But I feel like if you're constantly doing it and knowing He'll forgive you, so you do it and abuse it, then that's just like
Yeah.
that's the limit.
I think the reality of it is that the more you grow closer to God, the more you're willing to let go of certain things and change certain things. And the more you're capable of letting go whatever it is that's not healthy for you, that's not beneficial for you. I think that's the key. And that's the message that I've always told you, Ellie, is kind of like, just love God. Learn to love God. Learn to read his word, and just in fellowship in church, go to a Bible class, and just kind of like learn of God. And the more you learn and focus of God, like, the less everything else matters. I think the biggest, like, key.
But I feel like if you ask for help, like if you really if you like ask Him for help, I feel like He will help you. And it's not gonna be easy at first, but it gets easier. Like the more you love God, the easier it is because you're not distracted by the world anymore. You're not distracted by those sins that it just helps you become closer. But I feel like you shouldn't feel guilty if you're like
Coffee, no.
if you're sinning once in a while, but you're asking for forgiveness and not abusing it, you know? Like we're humans, we're gonna do that.
I think with what you're saying, I think it's important that the idea that this is why the Bible always tells us not to judge, because, and Elvis and I have been speaking about like accountability and judgment in other episodes, because who are we to measure when is it too much? Like,
Exactly.
for us to say, "Oh, you're overdoing the grace." Yes, that but I believe, as an adult and someone who's been in the faith for a long time, that after a while of you knowing already the truth and knowing things, there's just certain things you shouldn't be doing anymore, right? Because you should have discipline. You should be able to allow yourself to be discipled, meaning allow others to help you if you don't know which way to go. And ultimately, you should have a relationship enough developed with God that there's certain things that don't attract you anymore, right? Because the Bible says that everything's available to me, but not everything benefits me. And I think and that's something you'll learn as you get older, right? But when I was 13, I decided also to get baptized, but I was a hot mess at 13. Like my teenage years was like it was just crazy because I had so much unresolved uh daddy issues, right? Like I didn't have that connection with my father, so I was always looking for attention and affection and validation in boys, right? And doesn't mean I was doing anything crazy at 13. You're laughing because it's true. That's just how I was. It wasn't like I was a pick me person, like how you guys say, remember from the preaching. But it was just like I loved God, but I wasn't fully invested or kind of really there I had my moments, right? But then there were other moments that I'm like I'm still missing something, right? Until I was able to really fully give myself to God and let him do the work in me, right? So, am I going to do and act out how I was at 13 now at 31? No, because I would hope that between that time frame there is some growth, right? So, I'm not saying that you should be in the church for years and doing the same things or lacking discipline and structure. But that as you're growing in the faith, whether you're a teenager or an adult that comes into Christ at, later on, give yourself some grace and understand that you are going to make mistakes along the way. That's kind of the gist of what I'm saying. They're not going to hear it as much, Ali.
What I was gonna say. I feel like I'm different. Like I don't like I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I feel like I it's just like really hard nowadays. It's not because I want to be worldly, it's just that it's like around you so much nowadays. Like all of a lot of the sins that people like they're normalizing it and it's just like all near you. It's like not peer pressuring you, but it's just like you're seeing it left and right. So it's like hard because you kind of stand out in the crowd when you're not doing that stuff. And it's just like it's not like you want to do it, but it's just like you're seeing all your friends do it and you're like the only one not doing it. And it's just like, it just feels weird sometimes because it's hard to like, I think it's a big struggle, especially like, let's say like the music. It's so hard not to listen to music because that's like,
mommy. Stay here. Thank you.
you hear it everywhere. You hear it outside in school from your friends. It's just like, like it's hard to tell someone that like I can't listen to that because I'm working on that sin.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like for me at my age, I feel like that's like the worst thing, like having all the worldly stuff around us.
Yeah. And it's funny that she says that because she says it's different, but it's not different. Because the reality of it is that we too had those same issues. Here, Elena, growing up, right? So music was a big influence. People were smoking weed. People were having sex. I think this generation does it a lot earlier than our group. Yes, but that's a whole other topic for another day. But there's similar things, right? The only difference now this generation has because my generation came in when technology started first advancing, like cell phones first started coming out and the internet and stuff. But her group now, this generation, has fully access, excuse me, Alina, to social media. Like it's just everywhere, right? You open TikTok, I even know whatever upcoming songs or trending songs are there because I have TikTok, so I'm following TikTok and that's all like pops up in your For You page on IG, on Reels. Like everything's there, right? So it's kind of like hard to navigate like, oh, this is not too bad, this is not
Yeah.
saying nothing too bad, so like it has a good beat, it's hard. Like there's certain things that are hard to kind of avoid. You're gonna have friends that do smoke, right? That might smoke around you. It's kind of like hard because if you're in a setting where they're all there, it's hard to avoid certain things. But it's not impossible to continue in whatever path that you're choosing to have, right?
Yeah.
So if that's not something you want to partake in, it's a decision that you, I think, have to make for yourself. As much as I tell you not to do it, it comes ultimately to your
It
own
comes
decision.
out, yeah. Like you also like that. I think that's also our generation that like they try to make us make sure that we choose the path of God, but you cannot force someone to do that. Like you can't force someone in that path. Like the same thing with my baptism. I had to choose to do it. You
Mm-hmm.
can't force someone to do anything because at the end of the day, it's their decision to stay with God. And how you say your generation started leaving, it was their choice to leave or stay.
Yeah.
Even though some people may have encouraged like that because of all the negativity they were probably hearing, but it's still their choice at the end of the day.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, even as adults, right? I can talk to you about how good God is, or what he's done in my life, or why I believe and have faith, right? But you got to make the decision the same way, as parents, right? I can give her all the best advice, right? But now she's reaching an age where, as hard as it is for me, right? Because we want to be able to be in control and protect them from everything. They reach an age where now they got to start making decisions, right? With all the information they have, with everything they're learning, and choose, okay, am I going to go this way or that way? And we just got to pray and hope that they make the best decisions for themselves, right? The same way how, in the podcast we talk about relationships a lot, and marriage and partnership. You can't force, it takes two to tango, they say, right? And you can't fight alone for a relationship, right? You gotta both have to be willing to put the work, both have to be willing to sacrifice certain things, both have to be able to let go of certain habits, learn new habits. And it's the same thing with Christ. It's like putting in work, making an effort, that recognizing that we're really not that different, right? Yeah, she's 13 and I'm 31. So there's physically some differences, feature wise, there,
And
and
mentally.
mentally there's some differences because we're not in the same space. But ultimately, I was 13 at one point. All I wanted was to be loved, to be accepted, to be respected, and to be heard.
I think when they accepting, like for the accepting part, I think we want to be accepted from worldly people so much that we lose sight of God, and that we don't realize. I think like sometimes we love God, but since like the worldly stuff, they give us so much happiness as well,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't realize how little that happiness stays. Like it doesn't stay for long.
Yeah.
Like, and then we realize, man, like God was right. Like that thing is not good for me because at the end of the day, it makes you happy for a little bit, but not for a long time. God will make you happy for the rest of your life. There might be ups and downs, but that's where faith comes in.
Yeah. And I think, and that point applies to everything in life. It's kind of like we, and I said that I think in a previous episode, we kind of like so focused in filling these voids from whatever's ever happened in our
And
life,
in anything,
in
we want to
anything,
fill those
and we want
voids.
to fill it in with anything, and realize that we get caught up in the moment of the high of the moment, and then once that high comes down, we're still faced with whatever's lacking.
I feel like God tries to put you in the rock bottom sometimes, like, but we realize He's that rock bottom. Like sometimes we have to be put down there because we do not realize like we need Him that much.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's like God is so like He's so merciful for like He has like He's amazing because the fact is that we can go to the worldly stuff so many times, but He'll still forgive us. And I feel like we take advantage of that. Like we don't see
Yeah.
how loving He is towards us, and like it's kind of sad that it's so hard to sacrifice these little things, but He'll, and no matter what, He'll still like accept us and forgive us no matter what.
Yeah. I think he allows those moments that it's kind of like where literally when you're in the bottom, like all you have, your only option is to literally look up
Look, yeah.
and look up at him. And I think that that's the best way to summarize, I guess, our conversation is that, in trying to grow spiritually and trying to grow as people, just look up to God. I mean, as much, yes, it's important to surround yourself with people that are going to help bring you up, but sometimes those people are going to let you down, right? Sometimes as a mom, I'm going to let Ellie down, right? Sometimes as a mom, I'm going to say things that maybe not be the wisest words or may come off with a bad attitude, but God is never going to fail her, right? And in the areas that I lack or slack, he's got her back. That was so good. Oh my god, I'm wheezing, but that was so
That was so corny.
wow. But that's what I want to talk about. It's like we've had some little differences in our upbringing, and I had a much stricter upbringing, and sometimes a little bit of that strictness comes out. And But ultimately, I just want her to learn to love God and just, be a light wherever she is for those who might need to hear some positivity. And she's had shared stories with me that she has been light to some friends, and that's all I could ask for. And hope that you two get to experience God in a way that, your life could be changed. And like Ellie said, it's not easy. I mean, that I have a rap sheet of mistakes I've made, right? I'm not even gonna lie, since 13 to age 31, but here we are in God's grace and mercy and living life. God's got your back, guys.
Well,
It was said.
it had to be said.
And it was said. I said it backwards. Thank you guys for listening. I apologize for the interruptions throughout the recording. But we made it. So thank you guys for checking in and comment below.